Today is Wednesday, March 15th, 2017, and today we got to talk about Rachel Maddow and the whole big brouhaha that happened last night live on MSNBC. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll give you a brief explanation until we get into a little bit of video from that big dumpster fire that happened last night live on TV. Now, what happened was Rachel Maddow put out a tweet talking about how she had Donald Trump's tax returns from 1 year. Now, from that tweet, the internet just erupted. And it was all kind of anticipation for what she had. And on the left, it was a lot of people that were saying, we're finally going to find out he's a fraud. We're finally going to find out that he did not pay any taxes. He's a cheat. He's a con artist. We're going to find out he needs to get impeached. All kind of different things. Just the basic regular stuff. Because those people that had those kind of comments don't like Trump anyway. They're just trying to find anything. They're grasping for straws to find a reason to get him out of office. That is the only reason why they were so negative. The tax returns, they couldn't really care less, honestly. Nobody really does, but I digress. Now, the right, most of us are pretty much just like, okay, whatever you have, just show your cards. You know, don't tease, just show your cards. That's pretty much it. I was the same way. You know, I don't have cable, so I don't have MSNBC. So I didn't even really anticipate watching it, but I knew I would be able to see everything that happened live on Twitter as it unfolded. And of course I did. Now, before we get into what actually happened, into what she actually was able to find from these tax returns, which basically like two pieces of paper, I think it was like a 1040 form. She didn't really see much. But before we get into that, what I want to do right now is show you a video clip from that particular incident. Now, this program lasted for quite a while, and she spoke for maybe about a half hour before she released the actual information and talked about that. She was just bloviating about different things, just trying to have filler, basically, to keep eyes on her failing network. So it really wasn't much, but what I'll do is show you that actual piece you want to see, the coup de grace of the actual program last night. And after we get done with that, I'll get into my reaction of it. I'll talk about others that have tax rates that are lower than Donald Trump's, at least in that 1040 form that was released. And then I'll talk about just general reactions from other people in general. So without further ado, go ahead and roll it.
What I have here is a copy of Donald Trump's tax returns. We have his federal tax return for 1 year for 2005. I believe this is the only set of the president's federal taxes that reporters have ever gotten a hold of. What we have are these 2 pages, front and back, from the same 1040 form that you might have filled out when you file your taxes. And in terms of what's on here, let me give you the basics. Aside from the numbers being large, these pages are straightforward. He paid $38 million, looks like $38 million in taxes. Yep. He took a big write-down of $103 million. More on that later. If you add up the lines for income, he made more than $150 million in that year. Mazel tov. We got these pages. We got this document today from a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative journalist who's better on financial matters than almost anybody else in the business. His name is David K. Johnston. These pages turned up the other day in his mailbox. First of all, congratulations on this scoop. What can you tell us about how you got these pages, how you got this document?
Came in the mail over the transom, and there is absolutely nothing improper about journalists, if you haven't solicited something, getting it over the transom. And by the way, let me point out, it's entirely possible that Donald sent this to me. Nope. Donald Trump has over the years leaked all sorts of things. The very sleazy girl-on-girl pictures of the First Lady in the New York Post may have come from Donald. The front pages of the state tax returns that we had that were sent to the New York Times and the New York Daily News last fall may have come from Donald. Donald has a long history of leaking material about himself when he thinks it's in his interest.
Okay, so you see what's going on there. Now, that whole thing was a big, fat Nothingburger. Even the liberal media said that, which is kind of surprising, but at the same time, it's not. Because really, all this thing about the tax returns, all this hubbubaloo about tax returns is nothing. They're not going to find anything, because what do you really expect to see? Even Rachel Maddow said, well, this isn't everything. We don't see all of his full, extensive tax history. Of course not. Because what are you really going to find from a 1040 form, right? All you're going to find is how much he made in 2005 and how much he paid in federal income tax. And by the way, as you saw in the actual clip, he made $150 million in 2005, but he paid $38 million. So that is 25%, which is higher than Barack Obama. It's higher than Bernie Sanders. It's higher than MSNBC itself. And the 25% number is probably much higher than that because the White House itself put out some information. And by the way, the White House put out the information about the tax returns before Rachel Maddow did, because I assumed that MSNBC contacted the White House to see if what they had was authentic. And they said, yeah, like Rachel Maddow said, and they put out the information before she was able to that night, because I assume they probably contacted them much in advance, maybe like a few hours before. So like, okay, we're not going to just allow the media just to be making money off of us. We're going to go ahead and spoil the information right now. And he put it out to the media. I think maybe even on Twitter, he put out how much he paid and how much he made, which made the whole thing kind of anticlimactic. But at the same time, it's pretty much what I thought it would be. But getting back on track here, the 25% might not even be as low as it is. It may be closer to 50% because you do not include the excise taxes, the payroll taxes, all kind of random taxes you got to pay out of how much you make that contribute to your higher tax rate. Even a guy like me just sitting here doing YouTube videos, I pay much more than federal income tax. And all of that contributes to how much I pay out of my income in taxes. So if you just count on federal income tax, your rate will be lower than if you count everything. But I digress. My whole point here was that this was a whole big fat nothing burger. Just like when Geraldo Rivera had the whole big lead up to Al Capone's vault and found nothing. It's the same kind of situation. Nothing was found. But I didn't really expect much from Rachel Maddow. And on another note, I'm not sure who's going to get locked up behind this, because this is a federal offense actually to release tax documents without the person's permission, you know, because the guy she had on said that he got it in his mailbox, which I find kind of hard to believe. I think the guy was an investigative journalist. So if you're an investigative journalist and you just happen to find something in your mailbox, somebody sends to you, I'm not quite sure it gets there without you doing some kind of inquiry, some investigation, or something to make it come into your mailbox. You didn't just happen to find that just by happenstance. Some guy just says, hey, this is a nice mailbox, let me put it in his mailbox. No, you did something to get the information. That's kind of how that works. This whole I found it in my mailbox thing, I've heard on more than one occasion, it is used to absolve the person that released the information from any responsibility. Because in reality, he could have stolen himself from the actual place where it was at and then said, well, I found it in my mailbox. You know, that's kind of how that works. He could be thinking that he's doing a civic duty for the United States to release tax information about Donald Trump. But in reality, he's not. In reality, what he's doing is just trying to get a little bit of attention, a little bit more fame than what he has. I don't know who this guy is. That could be part of it. And then, of course, on MSNBC side, they're looking at it from a ratings point of view. It's going to be a ratings bonanza. It's going to be a boom for us. So we're going to put Mr. Maddow on TV and have him talk for 30 minutes before the information is released to keep eyes on our failing garbage network. So maybe in the 30 minutes, if you did not watch MSNBC before, maybe you'd be inclined to by looking at this person androgynous style talking at you for an extended period of time. Maybe that would just convince you to keep watching it. I don't really know what their purpose is, but whatever the purpose was, it was a big fat fail, an epic fail. So that's pretty much all I got to say about it. You know, I say shout out to Rachel Maddow. I say shout out to Rachel Maddow for actually releasing the information and letting everybody know how much money he makes and how much money he pays in taxes, at least from that 1 year. I mean, Trump said he can't do it because of the actual IRS doing an audit on his taxes, and that's fine. But see, he didn't do it. They did it. And he didn't release it when it came to the media either, because all he did was say how much he made in income, how much he paid in federal income tax. That is not your full tax return. That is a whole different thing. Like I said, even Rachel Maddow himself said that they were not able to procure all of the information from that year. And he's still trying to say that Donald Trump should release more information, which is hilarious. I think people just need to back off. They're not really going to find anything. This is very anticlimactic, a big fat nothing burger. But what do you think? Do you think that Donald Trump should put out his tax returns? We should release them, let the information be out there, let all of us consume it. We can disseminate it. We can do whatever we want with it. Is that the correct thing to do? Or do you think that he should do whatever his lawyers tell him to do? If the lawyers say, hey, don't release it, then don't release it. Either way it goes, whether you think he should or he shouldn't, what will actually be found in the tax returns? What's going to be found in there that we don't already know? He's already put out an income disclosure form. He's already put that out well before the actual election happened. So I'm not really sure what you're going to find on the tax returns versus that piece of information that he's already released. But whatever your comments are, let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.